Hello and welcome to another Transformers Tuesday with Played With. Today we are going to be reviewing this guy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with who that is, but he is part of the Omega Supreme action figure from Siege. Transformers Siege, Omega Supreme. Been looking forward to getting this guy for a long time, and here's his little buddy that comes with him. If you guys want to take a look at that real quick, he is absolutely delightful. There is so much to go over about this figure, and we don't have a lot of time to do it. I'm going to try to make this a short review, so let's get to it. Well, we've got the entire playset already set up here. Let me show this to you real quick. And you can see from me holding it from underneath that this thing pretty much sticks together very well. You can see ironworks here. He's set up to be able to take on one of the posts from the side. I've got it connected in a double hinge sort of way on the base of him, which gives him a little carport that your microfigures can pull into, including this little guy here when he's transformed. The main base itself is actually quite a good little playset. I've got Fortress Maximus and I've got Trypticon as well. And stacking up against those two, this is probably a much better love affair with giant figures than those two were. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of molded detail on those that shows that the engineers and designers went into quite a bit of depth in order to make those well worth the $150 that you were going to shell out for them. This guy came in a little bit higher price than that, and I'm kind of I can see where it happened. Both of those figures don't have too much molding on the insides, but this one does. Here, all over the back of the bay area, all over the inside of the ports where you stack his arms when he transforms, inside many of the other places. I mean, even when you look inside his shin guards, you can see there's extra molding all up inside that doesn't need to be there. And again, one of the really big delights for me for this series, for the War for Cybertron trilogy, is that Takara has gone out of their way to make sure that these figures are worth every penny that you're going to shell out for them. One of the things that I really like about this figure is that it's got a lot of ports, and you know me, I love my secret stuff. Secret modes, alternate modes, all kinds of stuff like that give me a chance to play with it. And one of the things that we're looking on this is that here on the sides, both of these sides over here, and then here in the middle as well, these two platforms here, they have the new connectors for the Siege, for the Earthrise, and maybe the Kingdom ports to snap together. You can see Ironworks here doing his thing. I'm going to pop him off real quick so that we can get transforming on this thing. The tab can fold in or fold out. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. And same with these things. These are platforms that can be elevated or moved around depending on what you need. And that's pretty neat. But here's a secret that a lot of people don't know about. You have a port here for the Titans Return figures to be able to clip into. Now, I saw people talking about that, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool. We can take those other play sets, your Soundwave and stuff like that, and clip it into that." But there's another port on the other side here, and I don't know what that's to. I know it's an older version. It's got a tab slot and a little L-shaped guy right there. And that is definitely another tab slot for another series to connect to. So I'm not sure if that's the G1 versions of some of the other play sets. I've only gotten my hands since I gave away all my Transformers from when I was a kid. I didn't really have any of those base mode ones, so I don't know if the original Omega Supreme was supposed to have stuff connected to it. I've tried to do some research on this, so maybe you guys could help me out with this one, but I don't know what that tab is supposed to go to. It looks like it's something from a ways back, but let me know. Give me some comments. Tell me what you think it might be. So we've got that. That's the play set, and it stands up really nice. It's pretty great for this guy to wander around on. We'll transform him real quick just to give you an idea of what he gets down to. He looks like a little moon racer, like a moon buggy. And sometimes his feet hang up on themselves, but for the most part, it's a couple of seconds long for the transformation here. The little radar dish folds back and forward, and despite his simplicity, he yields an unlikely amount of play value to him, because not only does he work as a gun, a vehicle, and a robot, he also has an incredible amount of detail packed into him. There is no other minifig in the Transformers line that has this much detail crammed into a 1.5-inch space. I guarantee it. The mold itself, it doesn't do anything, engineering wise, that it really changes the formula up. That's basically left up to the whole rest of the figure. But even in his tiny little face, like, you can see it here, like silver paint, blue paint apps on his eyes, little antennas on both sides that are molded differently. There's nothing symmetrical about him. He is an asymmetrically molded figure. Even the guns or the engine parts on his feet are completely different. It's a great little figure. And the playset, when you get the roads out for Omega Supreme, 2 of these can sit side by side on it, or one of the larger figures, like these guys. They'll fit the width of it pretty easily, and if you want to set them up so that they can roll around on it, they're not going anywhere because it's a circle, but it's kind of cool. For the tank mode, it's got rolling wheels on the bottom, which is understandable. I mean, I've got the Combiner Wars Megatron, the large figure that they made for him, and he had rolling treads, and that was one of the coolest features of those, despite the fact that I hate Armada Megatron like so bad. I just cannot stand that figure, but those rolling treads basically saved it. It was all right. But this guy, he doesn't really have much in the way of articulation. He's got some guns that go up and down. These guns go up and down. He's got little rubber blasters that can come off of it, and I'm sure you guys have seen those if you've looked at any of the stock images that they put out for these things. They all fit in all the ports. They make great blast effects all the way around. And as an addition to those kinds of blast effects, they're second to none. There's 8 of them. It's plenty. They all look really ridiculously cool, and they all look like they bring a little bit of realism to the battle scenario. His head doesn't rotate. It doesn't swivel because the front portion of the gun and the back portion of the gun, which is the head, don't connect and then move together. So you just get this up and down play with the turret here. On the inside, the front bumper opens up, and again, more just ludicrous molded detail up in there. It's just such a fantastic delight to see all this. It adds an incredible amount to the play value for it. I just absolutely love it. It's never a point where I transform this thing and I'm not digging back through the whole thing looking for more details that I might have not noticed before. It's absolutely delightful. And I know I've put up several reviews now where I'm talking about some pretty awesome figures. This is one that I will not get rid of. When it comes down to it, if I have to liquidate my supply of Transformers in order to get some quick cash or something like that, I don't know about any of you guys having to ever liquidate your stuff, or if you need to clear up room. For me, I'm only collecting a certain number of Transformers, especially these ones, because they're such good remakes of the G1 classics. I might pick up a few G1 here and there throughout the course of a year, but I'm getting as many of these as I possibly can. So I strongly recommend that you do too. If Omega Supreme or City Mode, giant Transformers were ever your thing, this is the one of all the ones that they made. This is the one to get of all the ones. If you don't want Trypticon, even though he's cheaper than he's ever been, even though Fortress Maximus also took a huge hit on the secondary market, those figures are great, especially in their city modes, especially in their alternate carrier modes. Those look great, but in terms of the expansive quality of it, those hit maybe 70% of the engineering, molding, and design that Omega Supreme does. He's just a step above. And as Takara took over the franchise to produce this stuff, you can definitely see that their engineers and their designers went out of their way to make sure that this had high value. The other ones are also high value, but man, I wish I just had a better way to describe it than just absolutely immaculate. Anyway, your little Moonracer guy can fit inside here, which is great, and it fits most generic minifigures. Popping this guy apart in just a second. And then the last thing is the rocket ship, which, you know, I've said this before. I'm a big guy. I got a big head, and this thing is just absolutely the size of 4 of my heads, so it's massive. The bottom articulates, so if you want a more space flight-esque rocket ship, it does flatten out, but then you have a balancing problem here. It stays stable by itself. It won't tip over that way unless it's knocked. But honestly, it does a pretty good job. The ratchet joints are a little bit weak for my taste, and there's no way to screw them in tighter to make it so that they fit better. They're plugged in. And there's just not much else you can do about that. So just be careful when you're messing with that. Up here, we can see more molding detail. If you disassemble this thing, the entire thing has molding on the inside. It's absolutely insane. And really surprising, because this is one of the first things you take out of the box and get your hands on. Even this little bay area right here, there's little computer screens coming across, and I don't know if I can get enough light on here to show you guys that, but there's tons and tons of molded details. Even on the floor works, you can see the ramp that leads in, and then over here there's even more computers in the background, and it's just to play with this toy is to feel like you had somebody build it just for you. It's so good. It reminds me of the classic G.I. Joe play sets where there'd be a computer bank with a seat and a little hole peg for, you know, the guys to put their feet on to hold them in place in just the most random places. There were so many computers and monitors and other things where your G.I. Joes could go. And it brought an entirely separate element to just shooting and blasting away that the toys are predominantly known for. You know, when every single figure comes with 9 guns, what else do they do? You know, and that's one of the things that made G.I. Joe successful. And it's also one of the things that made Transformers successful. Not every Transformer had to come with a gun. Some of them came with other accessories. Most of them were bombs. But, you know, then the third tier stuff was, you know, other things. Walk my way out of that one. Anyway, we'll fold this guy up. And then we'll get to transforming. Really, there's not too much to go on. You fold these guys up. You got to make sure that you don't try to bring them back the other way. They don't have a lot of strength to the little stopper that you use. So you can flip them back on themselves really easily, and you could potentially wind up wearing it down and causing damage to the peg holders on the sides. I don't know if that's the technical name for it, but that's what we're going with for right now. So these fold over really easily. And those become the back wings. And then this section, we'll get this up and out of the way. Fold these down. Take these up. Rotate. Nice chunky boy Ratchet. He is definitely a chunky boy. And, you know, if you've got extra minifigures or smaller figures, you can definitely store them inside there. I know that was a feature that was available on all the other giant figures. You know, areas in their legs, areas in their chests that didn't really have much use except for other figure storage. I have to say, I do appreciate that, because there are figures that I do plan on staging on this figure more often than others. There are some that I have that are favorites. So stash them inside the legs when I have to pick it up. You know, put it away in my closet, and, you know, get the next thing out. It keeps that stuff together. It keeps it a little bit organized. And I hate to say it, but having a Transformer with shelving space inside of it doesn't sound like something that you'd think of, but you didn't realize you wanted it. It's kind of like women's clothes. Dresses with pockets are the best thing you could possibly give a woman for her birthday. But you wouldn't think about that just dress shopping, you know. Don't quote me on that. There are plenty of other great gifts to get women. Just saying. They don't get as many pockets as men do, and that's a tragedy. Anyway, so this is like women's pockets on pants and stuff like that. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And when we've got him set up like this, he's basically ready to go. We're going to get this out here. I like to bring these down to get them out of the way. But the first place you're going to start is always at these two tabs here. Pop them out. And you're going to want to make sure that your little section for the office at the top of this thing is closed, because the next thing is you're going to pop these apart. And I want to talk about this for just a second, but when you're going to lay this thing in, there's two tabs here and here on the inside of this. And when you get these lined up, what I've noticed is that these little security tabs right here, you want to rotate this thing back just a little bit in order to be able to get this one in over here, to close it in so that this one here locks behind the hinge. Now, if you do that, it makes it so that it's a nice, secure transition, and you're not really stressing about trying to get it to work out, because it doesn't plug in straight, it plugs in from the side. And so there's a little bit of strain there that you just want to try to avoid. And once you do, you can see if I'm twisting this, it starts popping this thing open. That's what you want to avoid. You don't want to have this thing hanging open, because you're not going to be satisfied with the spaceship that looks like the doors are falling off. So pop these guys out, get them separated out, and then this whole thing swings away on a double hinged piece here. It's actually triple hinged, I'm sorry. It has a hinge here, and then a hinge inside. So pull on that to come out, and that brings this inner hinge out. And then we take these, fold them in, this, fold it in, and then these break away and fold down. Now we're getting to the arm section. Out and out, a little bit harder than normal. Down, sideways, out. And I try to leave a little bit of space on these so that it makes it a little bit easier to plug in. And from there, you're just going to insert this, and this is a dream of parts forming. You hear that? 2 clicks, slides right in, no problem. If you're taking it out, you just push it, no problem. I love that. And what I was saying earlier about having tons of molding on the inside, you can see here, the shell for the rocket has a ton of molding. The shoulders have a ton of molding. And then here, in a space that we know you're not going to see, there's never going to be a time when this is sitting out, when he's not transformed, when this is just coming apart, unless you've set it up so it looks like he got blown up or something. Like, I don't see there being any point for it. So having all this extra molding, just it's so gorgeous, it's so beautiful, and it's so nice to see it. Even on this little ratcheted hinge, there's little infrastructure points, or I guess structural integrity points, and then on the other side a totally different molding to it. Just take your time to go over this figure. If you've got it, if you're gonna get it, just work a couple of hours in over the course of the few weeks that you've got it to just go and observe this entire thing. I guarantee it'll be worth it.